Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight on episode 312, we're going to talk a little bit about pre-made survival kits, because this is a question. I don't know about you, Ben, but I get this question a lot, not just from Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures, but just from in my everyday life. Everybody always says, oh, if you were to buy a survival kit, which one would you buy? And I know we've talked about this briefly before, and we say there's no real perfect off-the-shelf survival kit, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to grab one. And the original idea was I was going to make a video, like a full-on video for our channel on this. And then I thought, you know what? I want to get your opinion on this, Ben, because I know you and I, we have talked about these. We have a lot of like-minded ideas, but I'm wondering if we differ on any of this stuff. So it's no real surprise I'm a little negative towards them, but not for the reasons people would think. And this is where the conversation was kind of spawned between Melissa and I. She always was under the mindset if it's better than nothing, which I don't disagree with, providing you have some basic knowledge behind it, which is also kind of the Achilles heel of this whole survival kit thing. To me, they are not meant for the person that knows nothing about survival. They are a cheap throwing together of items for somebody that's about at our skill level, which is the unfortunate part. We know enough what not to trust, but enough that we could use some of it to make it function. And I hope that's what we're going to talk about a little here tonight. And I am open to criticism on this, because this is just my opinion. And I really do hope a couple folks jump in. We got Eric joining us there. How's it going, man? I hope a couple people jump in with their opinions on this, because I think this could be a good, healthy debate. You know what I mean? There is no right answer here.
Well, I'm impressed you started off thinking we have a skill level.
Well, we're not perfect bushcrafters, but I mean, we probably have more than average Joe, is what I'm getting at. You know what I mean?
We definitely believe that to run this podcast. So, but I kind of see what you're getting at, and it'll be interesting to go through this kit. So I haven't had a good look at this kit. I think you sent me a quick link earlier, and I just quickly opened it up to see approximately what was in it. And so I have some ideas. So it'll be interesting to see each individual item. That being said, I think one of the things too is as you get to our level, and I use that with some quotation marks, yeah, you tend to gather a lot of stuff. So me and you, and those like us, because we have quite a few acquaintances, friends, and otherwise that have similar collections. We have a lot of stuff. We have collected a lot of this stuff, and somebody once asked me, how many knives do you have? How many saws do you have? How many axes? I don't know the answer. Right?
I couldn't even hazard a guess at this point. Like, not even joking, could not have hazard a guess on how many knives I have.
Yeah. I can give you ballpark numbers, guesses, but I wouldn't be accurate. So enough, right? And that's not true, because I keep buying more. But there's a reason I buy some of this stuff, because things have a particular place, time where they work out really good. And the likelihood, I think, that somebody put together a kit that you would love everything equally and would trust your life 100% is pretty slim, because even amongst us, if five people like me and you, so say we took Chris, for example, let's see, we say Jeremy, maybe Jamie, a few other people that I can think of in here, Steve. If we took these names and threw them in and said, like, find the best examples of the following, with probably a couple of exceptions, we'd all have different things for each item, right? So, and we would have good reasons for each item why we chose that over another one. So that'll be an interesting debate. But let's, because I'm excited. Let's crack this thing open.
All right, so I'm going to do a quick lead in, because we do have some people in the comments. They're going to be able to see a little bit more of it there too. We got Eric joining us. We got Andrew. We got Danny joining us. So welcome, gents. Here's what we're talking about tonight. It's pre-made survival kits, and hopefully I don't screw this up, but here we go. Hopefully, no, totally don't have the right thing on the browser. All right, give me a second, and I'll be right back. I try so hard. Okay, let's flip to studio mode. Anyway, this is a little backstory on the survival kit. It was originally $50. I got it 50% off, so it was $25. I had to go look at my old order there. But the whole reason I picked this up was, once again, I had the question. What do you think of these pre-made kits? You know what I mean? And they gave X thing, and I started going into my spiel about, normally I don't blah, 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 blah. And they said, well, there's this one for $25. It's regular 50. What's your thoughts on that? And I pulled it up and I looked at the photo. I think I'm good to transition to this now. Let's see how it goes. All right. So hopefully you folks are seeing what I'm seeing here. This should be the actual Amazon order that I did here. And this is the survival kit in question. It looked okay. You know what I mean? It had a lot of good things in it. But at the price tag, like at $25, even down to 50, I had my suspicions. So I said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to buy this. And like I said at the start, I originally planned on doing a review video for our channel, but then a whole bunch of conversations got sparked and I decided it might be a better podcast topic. Not to say I won't necessarily do an episode on this if there's more questions. But anyway, this is the kit. Like I said, I got it for $25.99. It was regular $49.99. And it's here. And it makes some boastful claims, you know what I mean? And I'm not even going to get into the name of it and stuff here because it's just some random brand name, and these are a dime a dozen, you know what I mean? This just happens to be the particular one I picked up from this company. It's Dusor, D-U-S-O-R. I've seen several different names on these things. Like I said, this just happens to be this one. And the first claim, and the reason I went with this was because it came in a nice hard case, and I am a sucker for a nice hard case because I do find they take a little bit more abuse. I can toss them around a little. I'm not gentle with my stuff. And the claim was it was waterproof. So the first thing I can tell you about this is my gut tells me not waterproof. There's not a piece of rubber on this entire thing, and without a rubber gasket, it's real hard to get a true waterproof seal. Now, highly water resistant, that I would say absolutely. Like if you had it in your boat and it fell over, you could scoop it out and it's not, it'll probably float for a little while. You know what I mean? It'll hold air inside for enough for you to scoop it back up. Or if it's on back of your truck or on your ATV and there's water and stuff splashing on it, it's probably not going to get drenched inside. But if this was submerged and left, water's definitely going to seep in. It's eventually going to fill, and it's eventually going to just stay underwater, which that's not waterproof to me. Am I being nitpicky? Absolutely. And I'm going to be critical on some of this stuff.
Now, I'm going to say I bought a kit similar to that in one time, and one of the first things that ended up getting thrown out was the case. I think one of the latches stopped working pretty quickly, and with some use, the hinge, because the hinge isn't a proper hinge, it's just folded plastic, it failed pretty quickly. So, and if it's bumping around and your kit, that hinge sticks out, it takes a chafing. So if it's getting bumped around, it's probably not going to survive a long time. I'd much rather see one with a proper hinge, and like you said, seals, and probably a more secure latching mechanism. But you're going to pay for that. Like if you want to go out and get a Pelican case, for example, and there are plenty of versions cheaper than Pelican you can get, but Pelican would be like a higher end version of it. You're going to pay a bit more. I showed you something a little while ago, like a fishing kit one from the dollar store that was already better than that. But even from the dollar store, that kit is $5-6. So.
Yeah, so the case, like I said, not a bad case, reminiscent of the old elementary school pencil boxes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? That's exactly what this reminds me of. Slightly better lock. This one has 4 tabs all the way around. I am going to admit, it seals pretty good. You know what I mean? Like they actually put a little time into it. But it is just the plastic flapping plastic. You know what I mean? And as you said, with repeated use, definitely going to break down and probably fall apart. But let's look at... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Take everything out, fill it with water, and clutch it, and shake it around a bit, and see if you stay dry.
Exactly. But I'm going to give this the benefit of the doubt. And sorry, folks, I do have a little bit of a cough. Hopefully that's not too much of an issue. Let's assume this is the survival kit. Somebody bought it. They're not using it every day. This is stowed away on their ATV, their motorcycle, the back of their truck, their car, whatever. You know what I mean? If it's just going to sit there, this will probably stay sealed pretty good, and it'll do function for that fairly well. You know what I mean? But like Ben said, it's not going to take a lot of abuse. So popping this sucker open, and I'm going to, like I said, folks, everything in here is still in its plastic. I took it out of the box, I looked at it and said, you know what? I'm going to talk to Ben about this, and it went on my desk, and that's where it's been ever since. Now, there is one thing in it that we can agree on. Definitely good having a first aid kit, survival kit, whatever. Mylar blanket. or emergency blanket, whatever you want to call them, just these Mylar sheets. You know what? You can't go wrong with these. Hundreds of different companies make them. They vary in cost, but honestly, they all work pretty good. Some of them may be a little bit more durable. Some of them may be a little less durable. As long as you're careful, they're going to do the job. They're going to, if you get them around you, they're going to reflect your own heat back in. If you make kind of a little wall barrier behind a fire and put this on it, it's going to reflect some of that heat back towards you. If you put it behind your shelter, it's going to put that heat back on you. It will work as intended. So this thing here, it automatically, well, I shouldn't say automatically, but it does get a definite pass.
Yeah, I mean, and I've bought those.
I'm just closing my door.
Okay. I've bought similar ones to that for a couple of bucks at dollar stores. You can buy bigger ones, smaller ones. You can get whole shelters. They're slightly bigger package, but they're all Mylar reflective. They are fairly tough. Like you won't tear them easily with your hand, but if they do get punctured, they'll rip pretty well. And they have some limited strength. There is a SOL Soul.
Yep.
They sell a better version, but it is thicker. It is heavier. It is much tougher. And they sell one that's very similar too. But yeah, not a bad thing. Doesn't take a lot of weight, and honestly, it's worth the buck or two. So,
yep, good thing. So right off the bat, you know what? An okay case and a space blanket, a emergency blanket, Mylar blanket, whatever you want to call it. We're off to a good start.
Yeah.
That's pretty much where we end off, unfortunately.
So
let's pull the next thing out, and this was the thing we were already talking about. This is what they label as a tactical/survival pen. And I've seen many of these floating around on Amazon and other online retailers and things like that. And they boast that, it can be used for, hand-to-hand combat, self-defense, whatever. But let's look at it more realistically. One, there's a pen, which ideally is pretty solid and whatnot. And two, it's got a window breaker. Which camera am I in? Right here. It should have a window breaker on the back of it there, which you can see.
Yes.
And here's my problem with this, which was my suspicion when I seen it. It is aluminum. It's definitely not aircraft grade aluminum. It's just pretty soft aluminum. It's ionized black. It's going to scratch. You're going to see it through there after a little time. And the biggest gripe I have with this is the window breaker. It's definitely not hardened. I have my doubts if it would break a window, and I would love to go to like a scrapyard, and I'm going to call around to a couple buddies I have. With the fire department, we do Jaws of Life. And I'm going to find out if I can try and put one of the windows out with this thing to see if it'll actually work. You know what I mean? So there's going to be a follow-up to this because we do have Jaws of Life training coming up in the next month. And I'm going to see if I can put out one of the back windows with this thing, and I'll have the full gear on. That way I don't get covered in glass. And I'll see how much it's actually going to take to push this through. Because I know how much it takes with a real window breaker, which is surprisingly little when they're hardened properly. And I also know how much force it takes to punch a hand through a window, which is surprisingly a ton of force. You know what I mean? So
I tested mine because I have a similar. I tested it on a beer bottle, and I mushroomed mine on a beer bottle.
And I have a feeling that that's exactly what's going to happen to this. We were talking just a little bit before it, and Ben suggested the Speedy Sharp here because it's nice high carbide. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea. And I took it and just drug it on it. And it's like shaving chunks out of it, which makes me think it's super soft metal, like super soft.
So here's my challenge. Try the pen to break glass, and then try the Speedy Sharp to break glass.
I don't know if I should say this on here. It's common knowledge. I'm going to say it anyway. Porcelain.
Yeah.
Is amazingly the easiest thing to break any kind of tempered glass with. So we've always said, like in the fire service, if you can't get in because you can't break the window for whatever reason, you don't get a window breaker, it's not breaking. If you can get under the hood and break a spark plug off, which sometimes you can. You just get, we carry forcible entry tools. You get it down there, give it a snap, pop the porcelain off, quick throw at the window, just wham, gone.
Yeah, I've seen that done. There's also a kit you can get on Amazon. I'll send a link to you later, where you can get a piece of something like that on a keychain. You put it on elastic and you can just snap it.
Yeah, I've seen it on a wristband.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at ordering one because it came out on BattleBox the other day, and I looked it up, and you can get most of those components.
Yeah, and that there, absolutely excellent tool. This one here, I have my reservations. I haven't even tried the pen yet, and I feel like I'm going to be disappointed in that. You know what? We're going to do it right now. Live. I've never written with this pen.
So while you're doing that,
if it writes.
While you're doing that, I did buy a similar one. I think I paid like $10-15 for it. And I wasn't happy with the back. It wrote good for the first bit, and then the pen started leaking internally, and the even open and close became very sticky, and I had to clean the whole thing.
I'm not gonna lie, it actually writes pretty nice. So I mean, it's just
So mine came with a spare ink cartridges. I'm already on my second cartridge, and I don't know how easy it would be to get a replacement. I did say to you earlier, and I stand by it. If I was going to just take a pen, I'd get a G2, and it won't have the rest of that stuff, but I can have, like, if you had the Speedy Sharp and that, and a G2 pen, you have a solid pen and something you can also use to sharpen your knives as well as bust open glass.
I was gonna say you lose the tactical look, but let's face it, you are losing a look, not a functionality. Yeah. I might actually daily drive this at work for a week or so and see how it works out. I'm actually impressed with how it writes.
The one I got is at work. It is leaking now, and honestly, it doesn't always write. But I wanted to test that, so yeah, test this one. It is mildly different, so it may not be identical, but very similar. Also, I think mine was painted, not anodized. So that would be another thing to test.
I'm guessing it anodized. Doesn't feel painted. Like, you know what I mean? It feels like it's more... It's almost like somebody did it at home with a battery charger. Yeah, that kind of level, you know what I mean? Yeah. Next thing up, there's nothing really to say about this. You either like them, hate them, whatever. It is what it is. And it's just a water bottle carrier. The idea is you pop one of these off, flip it around the top of your bottle, which I just so conveniently happen to have here. And then this gives you the ability that you can basically hook it onto your belt or onto your pack or whatever you want. You know what I mean? And then you just pop that off. Quick way to get your water. They work. They function for what they are. They have all the inherent good and bad that you would imagine on these. It is a plastic buckle that you're spreading apart and putting in. So if you're not careful, you're going to break them. I know some people that swear by these things. I can take or leave them. I don't use one. What are your folks' thoughts? What about you, Ben? What's your thoughts on something like that?
I mean, I have water bottles I carry. They wouldn't work with that. They have their own thing on them. I don't strap them to my belt because it's bouncing around is actually generally awkward. So I'd much rather have it in a pack or a secure location. So,
and that's kind of my problem with these. Even if they're on the back side of your pack, it's still just banging the entire time you're walking around. You know what I mean? Like. And like you, most of my water bottles, they're wide mouth steels. This isn't going to work anyway. I just don't use one. I don't know enough. You know what I mean?
If you're into, disposable bottles, because that's what it really fits on, and you may refill it, and that's great, because they are super light. They're thin plastic. But the thing is, they're not durable. And so I tend to find it ending up throwing out pretty quick. I'd rather spend a few dollars and have a water bottle I prefer. And you can see if they're metal, I can boil water in it if I have to. So I tend to look for, and I get mine at the thrift store, so I'm only paying $3 or $4 for them anyways. So,
all right. So I'm gonna just keep going along because we do got some more stuff. This is a common survival item everywhere, and this I wear one. This is one I made myself. This is the jazzed up version, if you so will. And it's gotten to the point where they're trying to do so many things, they don't do any of it well. And that's right down to the rope they used on it. It's not real paracord. It's some sort of knockoff synthetic brand, and you can tell already, like, there's a ton of stretch to that, and it's not, like, you know what I mean? I imagine the second it gets wet, it's going to swell. The buckle on it is massive, to the point where it's actually cutting off some of the length of the bracelet. Like, there's no way I'm going to get this on my hand. I don't know why I stumbled over my words so much. But even if I do, it's not going to be in any kind of a comfortable position. You know what? This kit just keeps making me eat my words. I did get it on my wrist. But anyway, it's a little tighter than I would like. Same as I would have a hard time carrying that buckle on the top of my wrist. It would have to stay to the bottom. And in which case, I am severely worried that's going to get broken by something.
So you got a few things going on there. You have a compass, but honestly, that compass is marginally useful.
This one's actually not bad. The one on this is better than the one that comes in the kit, but we'll talk about that.
But I don't find like a small one like that would be something I would overly want to use. It in an emergency it would be okay. It also has a whistle, which is a whistle,
It's an okay whistle.
and it also would have, I think, a little fire starter and
And I've had this exact bracelet bought with real paracord. And the first time we went to use that little fire striker just to say, oh, will it work? Snapped right off and it's gone lost somewhere in the woods. And I mean, we weren't pushing hard on it. The glue inside let go and the whole thing just went bloop, gone.
And even if it does work, honestly, that short of a ferro rod, you do kind of struggle getting a good spark off of it. It is a little harder to do something with. Could it work in a pinch? Yes, but any of those tools with us for a proper tool, probably better off. You could buy a Fox 40 whistle, much louder, much more secure, doesn't take up much weight. If you were going to make your own paracord bracelet, go buy one of the ones with the fire and the wire, like the survival one. And when you unwind it, you'll have a piece of snare wire. You'll have a flammable piece. And oftentimes there's fishing line, like a proper fishing line, which means you have some better survival things anyways. So if for me, I'm not to bash it. It is okay. Like everything in it is functional. You could spend a few extra dollars and upgrade every component on that for
not much more money than what that was worth in this kit. So I think I'm going to start ranking some of this stuff as gimmick, because this is more gimmick. Like, yes, it does some of the basic things, but you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Versus useful, like the Mylar blanket. You can't screw these up. They're excellent to have. The pen right now, it's falling somewhere in between. More to come on the pen. And for me, unfortunately, the bottle carrier's gimmick. I don't use one, but once again, that's me. Somebody out there can argue this point. If you can give me a valid reason these things are the bee's knees, I'll listen.
If you use it, it's worth it. Like, honestly, worth what you would probably pay for that if it's something you're going to use. I wouldn't bash that particular one. Just I wouldn't choose it either.
Yeah, it's just not something I specifically use. Now, we did talk a little bit about the compass that came in this. And I was sort of excited because I thought, you know what, I got Melissa one that was very similar to this.
Yeah.
There is a difference. The build quality on this is basically what you expect. It is brass. The hinge point, that's definitely going to break at some point. It is an oil-filled inside. The space inside actually has oil. There's a specific name to that. I can't think of it right this moment, but it is oil-filled, which gives you a buffer on the needle. Here's what I don't like about this particular compass. If this is not perfectly flat, and I mean 100% perfectly flat,
it doesn't move.
The needle catches. Now, if you know that going into it, and this is where I come back to, if you have a little prior experience with a compass and you notice that, you can tap it and it will settle out to relatively where it should be. But if you don't know that and you're just in the woods and you got that slightly held and you're like, why does north keep changing? You're going to get yourself more lost. Or better yet, you keep walking and you think you're following north and you're stuck all over the place. This here, to me, could get somebody hurt.
And we've talked about compasses in the past. Although I have been known to use cheaper compasses, like not the most expensive ones by any means, buying a quality compass is worth it. That is your navigation system. That is your backup if your GPS. If everything else fails, a compass can get you out of trouble. You don't want one that's going to act up or cause problems. And I have seen good compasses, reverse. So a cheap compass is even more likely to fail.
Well, now the needle is just 100% stuck. It's just not coming off.
So in that case, that is not better than nothing. That is actually worse than nothing.
That's what I mean. This here could get somebody hurt, in all honesty. Like, it could give them a false sense of security. Oh, yeah, I got a compass. As long as I follow this direction, I should be fine. Well, what happens if the dang needle don't work? Which is what's happening here. And I thought maybe it was some of the electrical stuff, but it is just stock.
Yeah.
Like stuck.
Yeah, okay. Get rid of it, buddy. Let it go.
It's still weird, too. Anyway.
I have to say, I would rather see somebody get a decent compass. You can go to Canadian Tire, Mech, REI, whatever your local outdoor store is, and buy a mid-range compass. Probably a base plate compass would be a much better compass with a reflective mirror on it, and your navigation is going to go way up over just a simple compass. So,
Thought I might have the most basic compass you can find. Right there. Haha. These here are a surprisingly good compass and are surprisingly inexpensive. I think that's like a $10 compass.
So that's a base plate compass. I like the one with the mirror on it because you can use it for aiming. And you can get them for $25-$30, or you can spend a couple of hundred. But a really good one is around $80. Yeah.
That's a Silver Ranger, which you can no longer get. Unfortunately, you get the Ranger 2, but you can't get the Silver Ranger anymore.
But that compass, worth every cent.
Absolutely.
Like, I would definitely pay for a decent compass because it is your communication. And in that, it's also a signaling device. It's, I think they have small magnifying glass. I don't know if you'd start a fire with one. I've never tried. I wouldn't bet on that. But it is a more useful tool than a cheap one in a box. If you're going to buy a kit that has a decent compass in it, you probably are getting a good kit. I'm going to say that out. If they've spent money on a compass, they've probably spent money on the other things in it. So if you're going to replace one thing in there, start off with the compass.
Definitely. If you're going to be like 100% trusting your life to it, sink a few bucks. So yeah, compass in this kit, I'm even more horribly disappointed with that. I thought I had it figured out to a degree. It's almost like the magnet suddenly reversed in it or something. Anyway.
Yeah. We've had that happen on a search.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
All right, moving on. There is something in here that I was like okay with. For what it is. Once again, keep in mind this whole thing costs $25 and I'm keeping it in the realm of expectations for $25.
Yep.
And that's this eating utensil. It is just your typical spork. On the back end, it had a nice little knife with a handle on it. The handle has a whistle. The whistle is garbage. Not going to lie to you, it's not a great whistle. The one that's on the wristband is actually a little better. But this here, it's a functional thing. It's not titanium or anything fancy. It's just steel. But nice bottle opener. The knife is unsurprisingly pretty dull.
Good enough for spreading butter and cutting cheese.
And probably doing some basic cutting. Like, it's not terribly dull, but it's not...
You could put an edge on it. Try to put an edge. I don't know if it'll hold an edge, but
That's
try.
That's what I'm wondering, honestly. Let me grab a piece of paper here. I don't think this would shave paper.
No, probably not.
And it's pretty gritty. It's more tearing through the paper than cutting it. But it's okay.
I'm sure you could cut a steak with it. You could definitely cut wieners or sausages with it.
100%.
So if you had to eat a meal with it, probably. Actually,
absolutely.
That doesn't look too bad. I've used worse.
Exactly. So this, actually useful. Not so much gimmick. Has some gimmick features. Whistle. But you know what? I like what they tried. They had to put a sheath over that anyway so you could use it because you're not going to hold the open blade to try and eat something in case you slip. So they had to make a handle for it. And I like the fact they tried to do something with that by putting the whistle in it. I just wish they had spent like the extra $2-3 and made a little better mold for it.
But honestly, any whistle's better than no whistle because if you're really tired or hurt and you can still blow, then you can make a whistle and people will hear that a lot longer in your voice. So if I was a searcher looking for you, I'm listening for a whistle. So, I'll hear that a few hundred feet away, which means if you hear me rummaging through the woods, you start whistling, I'm going to look for the whistle. So I'm not bashing that particular aspect. Yeah, I would probably give that a pass too. For the $25 you paid on the kit.
And that's it. I'm keeping this in the realm of the realism of the cost I paid. For some reason, they added in some twine is the best way to describe this. I don't know if you're supposed to like lanyard mount this around your neck or what the deal is, but it's a little bit of cordage. I'll give it for what it is. I could probably find a use for it. Probably not going to wear the spoon around my neck though.
We love cordage.
All right. Now, a couple of things that came with this that were a little interesting were these things. And I actually like these. They gave you kind of full... Let me get them out of the bag, I guess. They gave you these two little screwdriver parts. There is a multi-tool in here too, but a dedicated flat and Phillips screwdriver that are actually big enough with this flat spot on it. You could do a little damage just with your hand on this. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
With the keychain attachment, I actually like that. I may take these out of the kit, and these may end up on my truck keys.
Yeah.
We'll see how they handle. You know what I mean? I have my doubts of the metal quality is the problem. But for like working around the truck, you have a lot of those little plastic fittings with the Phillips on it or slot. It'd be great for that instead of me trying to dig out a multi-tool. Just it's on the keys, off I go. That I actually like these for, but I don't know about the quality.
You never know when a screwdriver will come in handy. You may have to open something, change a battery. You may have to, take a door off its hinges. There's things that, like screwdriver things that you'll come across in. I do like them, right?
So I am going to go useful on the little, the two little screwdriver sets. There's not much to say about them visually if you can see them. And sorry for those of you that aren't watching on YouTube, folks, that are listening only. Great reason to come over to YouTube and check out Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures and subscribe. I think that's the first time we ever said it in 312 episodes. But yeah, they're about 2 inches long. They got a flat spot on the back that goes on the key ring, and they're just nice little... It literally looks like somebody took one of the bits you would put in your driver and flattened the back of it out.
Yeah. But honestly, like if you think about it, probably $2 or $3, worth $2-3 a piece.
Yep, and that's where I'm at. I figure that thing there's about $2-3. To me, for the cost I paid, worth it, useful. Now, the bane of my existence are these things, Ben, and I bet you know what I just reached in and pulled out. If you had to guess the most useless thing in this kit, what would it be?
The saw.
The saw. So here's the thing, folks. I get asked on these specific saws a fair bit, and I don't think there's anybody out there that has used one of these that would not disagree. These wire saws are generally absolutely terrible. Now, here's the thing. Here's the caveat. These are only really designed to cut wood up to about the size of your thumb, and that's maximum. A lot of people try to wind these into sticks about the size of a broom handle or a shovel handle. It's absolutely going to heat up, and it's absolutely going to break. And that's the downfall with these little wire saws. Oh God, the dyslexia is going to be hard on me here tonight. So these wire saws, they have a bunch of weak points. One is how they join them together here. It's just a little soldered end, which generally works good unless it's done incredibly cheaply, which this is. They fall apart all the time there. The second thing is the wire itself. Although very thin and has a lot of abrasion on it, it's not tempered wire. It has to be, malleable so you can get it around things. The second it starts building heat, it stretches and snaps. I think every single soul that has ever used a set of these might have made one cut successful, and then this just goes out the window.
There are better saws that are portable, and honestly, if you found like a Swiss Army knife with a saw blade on it, like a proper Swiss Army, not one of the knockoffs, I would take that every day over that. And
100%.
I could probably cut through everything with that short saw than I would ever with that. If you're trying to cut like a 4-inch piece of wood with that, good luck. With some patience, you could with the Swiss Army knife. So, yeah, I immediate my thought when I seen that on the package is let's toss that. I wouldn't take it in the woods. No. I would say it's not better than nothing. Again, it's just expectation.
I wouldn't give that to someone I hated.
I might.
No, that aggravation's not worth it. I don't hate anybody that much.
I'd send that to. Most of them, actually.
All right, so we got kind of a gimmick item out of the way. Something that was pretty good, or at least seems decent in this kit, which I was pleased about after seeing the bracelet fiasco, was they included a decent-sized fire steel with striker. Like, that's not terribly small. It's not massive, but it's not terribly small. It's about the size you get on most fixed blades knives. So if you ever had, like, the... Oh, the Bear Grylls knives or the Les Shroud knives, because those were big for a while. Some of the knives you see here, the danglers I have, they have ferro rods about this size on the outside. I'm curious to see if this one's any good. I have my suspicion that this is probably really soft, which means it's going to throw sparks like mad for the first 25 strikes. And then it's going to start hooping out and you're going to start catching, which will eventually lead to these breaking. And that is kind of the downfall to a lot of these mass produced ferro rods. There's a reason you can pick a ferro rod up like this for around $7 because you're getting about $7 worth of ferro rod. They do use softer materials, and like I said, as you scrape down them, you get a couple good strong strikes, but everybody tends to push a little harder in the middle. And then they start hollowing out there because that's where your flick comes from. And as they hollow out, it creates a weak point plus a catch point. You catch on it, you end up overexerting inside it, they snap in half, and then they're basically junk. I am going to try this a couple times. I mean, in a pinch, it's still going to get you a fire going at least 1 or 2 times. Would it be my everyday driver in the woods? No. Sorry, Ben, I kept cutting you off. All yours, buddy.
Sure. I Googled it quickly just to see. You can buy a 2-pack of those for $10. So about $5. The more quality ones, the names that I am familiar with, for a similar size ferro rod, $26. So the mesh metal ferro rod, the difference in those is the quality, and like you said, so the low quality ones are usually a softer steel. They'll wear quicker, and they don't give as hot a spark. Where you can get a harder one that'll give a much hotter spark, last a lot longer, but you are going to pay for it. And honestly, if you're going to carry the weight and bulk of that in, buy a decent one. Don't have to pay a ton, but test it. Those will work. I wouldn't throw one away if that's all I had. It'll definitely work. It's just for a long-term use, it is worth upgrading. And if you're buying a kit like that, you're probably going to end up upgrading most, if not all, the components in time. But it might be a starting point. So let's go to the next item.
All right. So the next thing, this is another hokey item. And this might be controversial. I don't know. I always found these things hokey. Everybody and their dog tried to make one of these at some point.
Multi-tool? No.
The credit card multi-tool. Specifically the credit card multi-tool. So, I hear you saying, well, Robert, why are they so bad? Because they try to do too much with too little. It's a whole bunch of stuff that sounds good in theory, but it doesn't do any one of it decent enough to consider this a tool. This is a novelty in my mind only.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you on this. I have played with them. I do have a couple that I do carry around on occasion. I had the really thin ones that had like hooks and stuff in them, like the Dexter. That's a thicker one. I bet you that there's a screwdriver attachment on that. It probably works. You can definitely open a pop bottle with it. The wrench, I don't know. What's the elastic on? Is it you supposed to be able to put something
It's
in it?
rope, and it's terrible rope.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's some measuring devices on it, but honestly...
Hidden by the rope.
In a survival situation, how often do you need to measure something that much?
The knife edge that's on this is literally like...
Yeah. Yeah.
No, go ahead, Ben. Finish your thought before I rag on this anymore.
But it is better than nothing. Like, if you had it, you get some use out of it. But honestly, it is a novelty thing. Probably less useful than not.
Like I said, these I find just try to do too much. Nothing ever works the way it's supposed to. The knives are always dull. The little gut hook things are never sharp. The little bit of rope cutting here is not big enough to cut any kind of rope. The rope they included on this one is absolute garbage. It's like dollar store neck fan kind of rope. The steel quality is, I'm bending it with very little force. I mean, these things are not going to handle anything. Now,
so it's
sorry, go ahead.
It's soft steel. It's not even going to hold an edge if you sharpen it.
No. Absolutely not. This is going to dull just by carrying it around in the survival kit.
Okay, toss it.
Now, like you said, there was a couple people that did these rather well. Wayne Colcraven there, he made one that was based with the hooks and stuff on it, and I seen it. It wasn't too bad, but he tried to keep it down to the minimum of what it was, and it was 3 fish hooks and an arrowhead. And then the rest of the card was just kind of nothing. You know what I mean? I think it might have been and maybe I'm lying. If Wayne's listening, maybe he'll jump in. I think it might have been like a magnesium on one side. I can't remember, but I do remember the fish hooks and the arrowhead wasn't too bad in it. But once again, he took the same size, did the appropriate amount of things with the size it was given, and it worked out fairly well. But these ones that claim to be like the 15-in-1 credit card things, I hate them. I absolutely hate them. That is my personal opinion. They are nothing but a novelty. Great idea, great to flash at your friends, useless to do anything real with.
I said flash your friends, but you go. What we got next? We're already 40 minutes in.
I know. I was seeing if they're talking about fishing here. Be careful with those pre-made kits. They give people a false sense of security. That's my whole problem, Eric. That's my whole problem with these things. Only 3 more pieces left. So let's move on to the pride and joy of this thing. The multi-tool, which I wasn't upset with it. Let's go with that. It's... I have paid about $20 for a multi-tool like this. Not great, but functional. You know what I mean? So the entire $25 that I paid on this kit, I got my money back literally just between a couple of the actual good items over here. So I'm not disappointed with the purchase. The multi-tool, it's just a typical flip open. I do like it spring-loaded.
Oh, yeah?
I do like a tool that you can use, you know, like one-handed. It does have some basic tool things on it here. It has another little Phillips. It has an awl on it, but it had like a nick in it, and I don't know if that's by design or poor quality.
So I got a question. One of the things, there's like a can opener. How sharp is the edge on that can opener?
It would open a can, not many. If you had to get into a can, it would get you into a can. To be fair, I'd probably use the knife and have the same success, but it's not terribly dull.
The reason I ask is if they have a nice sharp edge, they're usually made of good metal. If they have a slightly rounded edge, they're usually a cheaper metal. And that's the first thing I check. That and the screwdriver bits when I find those multi-tools. Because there's a plethora of them made. Some were made of good steel and some were made of cheap. And usually the first thing I look at is the screwdriver bits and a can opener. Because if it's made of cheap metal, that's where it shows up pretty quickly. All of them, the wrench will hold something. It's just how long will it last and whether it'll start to get wonky after a period of time.
And that's where this is. This is that as long as you're not abusing it hard, this will probably work for, you know, the few minor things you would have if you were relying on this for survival. With heavy use and abuse, this is going to fail. It's right at about that $20 quality. So, you know, my Leatherman over there that I paid almost $200 for, this doesn't hold a candle to it. It's about $20 worth of quality. And as long as you know that and expect that, great little tool. Would I give this to somebody that's never been in the woods and be like, oh yeah, here's a survival tool. It's a multi-tool. You can go in and do whatever you want with this. Absolutely not, because they're going to break everything on it. You know what I mean? You have to have the knowledge to know what's good and what's not.
Me and you both bought, was it the multi-tool we spent like $30 on?
Yeah, it starts with U. I can probably go back and look up the name on it. But that multi-tool, if you can catch it on sale, I'm still using that in my truck. And I've committed to giving it every bit of abuse I can. And it's been taking it and laughing about it.
Okay, mine was the Byberry.
Oh, maybe that's what mine was too. It is a Byberry.
Yeah. And so Byberry, when I bought mine, and I just have one up here now. Let's take a look at it. $50 right now, 30% off. So it was $70. But you got a decent metal, replaceable cutters, multiple tips, can take hacksaw blades. So you can choose as good a hacksaw blade as you want in that, like little like T-shank. Now, honestly, I did find the locking mechanism on that wore after a bit of use. But overall, it's a copy of a I think a Leatherman.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a Leatherman ripoff. And for $50, you're going to get your money's worth. You don't have to spend a fortune, but honestly, the cheaper multi-tools are not worth it. Knowing that for a few bucks more, you can get one that's significantly better. And if you want to spend like $100 plus, honestly, a Leatherman or Gerber, even a smaller one, and have a few less options, you're going to have a solid tool. that'll last you probably a lifetime. Now, both of us have Leathermans and Gerbers, and some of them we like more than others. But yeah, the cheap ones don't tend to last a long time. So, but yeah, it probably is worth the $20, but I wouldn't pay much more than that.
And that's about it. Like I said, it's worth every cent of the $20, no more. It's definitely one I would put in Willie's survival kit, like one that I know she's going to beat around. It'll probably get broke regardless if it was a $200 one or a $20 one, but it's going to give her everything she needs to learn the basics of the tool. Absolutely. Next item in, and we're down to basically 3 items here. Little flashlight. And the flashlight is way better than it has right to be in this. I'm not gonna lie. It is it's a typical Chinese one, you know what I mean? And it's just a mass-produced one that was made somewhere in China. You can probably see these with 1,000 different names on them. But this is a good little flashlight. It's telescopic, like it zooms in and out. It's fairly bright. Try not to blind anyone there. It runs on 1 AA. The battery life is pretty good. Waterproof, no. Crush-proof, no. Good little flashlight. If you needed one, absolutely. Battery life, I've had this. Oh, apparently I did not notice that. It has 3 settings: high, low, and strobe, and you got to go through all 3 of them. So that was the second time I turned it on. What's that?
You sure it's not waterproof?
I wouldn't say so. There's no rubber gaskets on it.
Okay, you've opened it up thoroughly.
Yeah, that's what I was just doing while we were talking. I actually wanted to check to see if it had a rubber gasket on the back before I said it's not waterproof, and I popped it off. And it is just cheap aluminum on cheap aluminum, so it's not going to last forever. But yeah, there's no rubber gaskets on the back of that anywhere. Like, it is just your typical Chinesium kind of stuff. But for a $25 kit, way better than it needs to be for this kit. You know what I mean? I was expecting a little plastic pen light, basically, because that's generally what you get in these things.
So I'd say that's probably worth it. That's probably worth carrying. I would keep that in my kit until it didn't work. Honestly, I'd change batteries in it. Unless it started giving me trouble. Seems bright enough.
Yeah, no. Like I said, runs on a AA battery. Seems to have good life. I turned it on and set it over there for a couple hours, and that's why when I turned it on the second time, it was dim. I'm like, okay, so it is killing the battery. But it just went to the low setting. Didn't realize that. So it does have 3 things. It does have that strobe. I didn't read the instructions. I'm literally opening this, other than for the flashlight, basically in front of you folks. And the last thing out of the kit itself, like the actual case, was these basic fishing gear. And it's just some line, a little grub hook, and a couple of sinkers. Pretty standard stuff. Tried, tested, and true.
Yeah. Worth $2-3 for sure.
Absolutely. Basically, you can pick that little kit up from the dollar store. You could make a little better fishing kit literally at a dollar store for only a couple bucks. Now, there is one last piece I would include in this survival kit, but I bought it separate from the survival kit itself.
Okay.
And I figured I would talk about it. Because this, I do believe, is one of those things that is not gimmicky. Life straw.
Ooh.
Not a brand name Life straw. This one here.
Stallion Mini is still my favorite, but yes.
Oh, no, actually, this is a brand name Life straw. Okay, I bought these thinking they were knockoff Life straws, and I ended up getting an actual Life straw. Because I only paid $13 for this.
Yeah. No, they're not overly expensive. They're definitely worth it. Honestly, those filter straws, the different types you can get, like Sawyer Mini, the Sawyer has a straw style one now, I believe. And there's a couple with carbon filters and stuff. Like, there's a couple of upgraded ones. But honestly, I think I bought a few of these over the years. They're worth it. They really are. Anywhere from like $15 right up to $100. And you can get like gravity feed systems with them. You can get additional bags. But in the end, if you ever get beaver fever with Gargia, you would pay a fortune not to.
I was gonna say, I remember a whole camp getting it once. That wasn't fun.
No, and honestly, every one of those guys would have gladly spent $500 not to get it.
Pretty much. So anyway, folks, we are up at like 50 minutes here. We picked up the pace at the end of it, but that's the survival kit. Once again, long story short, I do think they have a purpose. For the $25 I paid for this one, I think I got my money's worth. There is some hokey crap in it. I pointed that out, and that's my biggest problem with survival kits. The pre-made, off-the-shelf, here's a survival kit kind of deal. if you're not paying big bucks, and the big bucks does scare people, you're getting junk equipment. And if you're giving this to somebody that knows nothing about the equipment and you're going, here's a survival kit, if something happens, you're going to be okay in the woods.
Yeah.
I find that as false advertising. If you gave me this and said, hey, I found the survival kit for 25 bucks, throw it in your ATV, it'll give you something to work with when you're in the woods, I'd be like, okay, yeah, you know what? I know enough about this kit. I can make something happen with this. But just for Joe Blow that doesn't have the backup knowledge and thinks everything in here is literally golden paradise, man, that's dangerous. My two cents.
My thoughts, honestly, if you look up 4 or 5 of these kits, write down the components in the kit, and then look around a little bit, especially if you're willing to go to like some thrift stores, a couple of hardware stores, and write down what you think you need. You can buy a slightly better version of everything in there. Yes, you're going to spend more money, I guarantee it. But probably for a lot more than 70, 80 bucks, you could probably get a fairly nice kit. And if you want a top tier kit, you might have to spend like 150 bucks. And a lot of that would be in your multi-tool. A decent flashlight, a livable flashlight you can get for 5-10 bucks, honestly. Survival blanket, a couple of bucks. Fishing gear, 5-6 bucks at dollar store would be where I would go. What else did we got in there? Those screwdrivers, I looked them up. They're $7 for that set.
And I bet you can find cheaper ones. You know what I mean?
But if you have a good multi-tool, you already have that. If you have a good Swiss Army knife, a solid knife, any good brand name solid knife probably would beat that. What else you got in there?
The compass, definitely spend a few bucks on a compass. We mentioned that. Same as the whistle. There was a couple hokey whistles in there. They are better than nothing. Yeah. But a Fox 40 whistle, once again, $10. It's going to go twice as far, twice the effort into making it that loud. You know what I mean? And it's just a better quality whistle. I don't trust these ones not to break.
And honestly, for all this stuff, like if you have anybody who's into this stuff, chances are they have all this stuff in spades. And you could probably bag, borrow, or steal it. And I'm not even joking. Like, if you went to somebody like me or Robert that you know well and say, I'm just trying to put together a kit. Do you have any extra stuff? Chances are they would they'd go through and say, yeah, man.
Absolutely. First thing I'm going to do is drag you out to the garage and start opening bins and say, what are you looking for?
Right? So, whistles. Like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times I've gone on Amazon and bought cheap whistle sets, and you get like 5 or 6 in a set. So I stuck them on every life jacket I have. I got them stuck on like the girls' backpack. So I had extras. And sometimes they even give these away in shows and stuff. Like if you go to like outdoor shows and stuff like that. Sometimes that's like a gift that they're just throwing out there. So you can pick them up oftentimes very easily and cheaply. It may have a brand name on it, maybe a funky color. But yeah. But take a note of what's in the kits, because the kits aren't bad ideas.
No, the kit's a great idea. Poor execution.
Yeah, you can always upgrade it. And, go to dollar store, like even the case, a decent Tupperware container, believe it or not, or a lock and lock, plastic lock and lock kit would be much better.
Well, that's all this is like poor man's lock and lock. You know what I mean? I think the hinge is even starting to fail on that already.
The lock and lock has a silicone seal, and the top comes completely off.
And that would be 100% waterproof, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you can. Well, I know they are because I filled them with soup and taken them to work, right? But it's a better latch. It's a better plastic, so you would be happier with that. So it wouldn't take long. A few other things I might throw in there: some Ziploc bags, really good for a lot of stuff. Honestly, replace the fire steel with a Bic lighter.
100%. I was going to say that, and then I just kind of left it alone. Danny has a question here, and I'd like to address it. He said, so probably a good kit for somebody with some knowledge to use some and upgrade some of it later. And yeah, absolutely. It's also a great kit if you want to throw it under like the seat of your canoe, because you daily carry a few things. Like I daily carry a multi-tool and a pocket knife. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to rely on the 2 things in here that I basically ragged on the most. But the other stuff I could do some things with. As bad as that cordage is, I could do something with it and the Mylar blanket and make myself a temporary shelter for a night. 100%.
So I was in a hardware store the other day, and I found this micro cord. It's 100 rated 100 pounds. I think I have 125 feet on here. I paid $7, maybe with conversions that it was in the States. I'm sorry, anyone hates me for that. But I went down to the States. I had to go check on some stuff, and I found this at Ace Hardware. and they had every color you can name. They have camouflage ones. This one's a nice bright yellow. But honestly, $7-8, 150 for a 100-pound cord. This is great for tie downing your string. You can make a lanyard out of it. I would take this over any of the rope in your kit.
100%.
For $15-20, you can buy 150 feet of survival cord, which is a paracord with extra things in it. And you can make a dozen of those bracelets. Easy.
100%. So I guess bottom line on this thing is for the $50 this kit was originally asking, not getting a deal. The 25, not bad. I mean, even at $50, it gives you an idea of what you want in a kit. But if you double that, and I do mean double it, $100, you're going to get a kit that's at least 100 times better than this. Yeah. You know what I mean? So a little bit of extra money, significantly better kit. It's not a bad thing. It's just I find it's marketed wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like I said, don't be afraid to thrift stuff. Don't be afraid to reuse stuff you already have. There's plenty of good stuff out there that you can get. And use it as an idea. Like there's some good ideas in there. I'd also probably include some first aid stuff. So at least a few Band-Aids, maybe a couple aspirin, a burn ointment for sure, and probably some polysporin. I mean, polysporin everywhere. But honestly, if you get wounded, you don't want an infection, something like that, some kind of antiseptic type thing, maybe a small thing of hand sanitizer. They were giving those away for the longest time.
Oh, man, you can still get them basically everywhere for 99 cents.
So it doesn't take long to build yourself up a nice little kit. And maybe a small sewing kit. That was missing in there, but I think the ability to repair gear you already have is better than carrying more gear. So you can rip your pants, you can rip your pack, you can damage your hat. All these things could be easily repaired with the right gear. But I me and you, we're knife fanatics. Probably buy a decent knife. It is probably the most valuable piece of gear you're taking in the woods. And a good fire starter. And like we said, a Bic is what? $1.50, $2 for a Bic now?
I was going to say it's $5 for a pack of 6, I think. Something like that.
Yeah. So hard to beat that. A good fire steel, you're looking at $10 to $25. But, you can start a hell of a lot of fires with a Bic. And if it's you ever only use it one last time, you're not going to wear out the Bic in that time.
No, and that's the thing. You can flick a Bic as many times as you want, and it takes very little dexterity to use it. But I guess... sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I'd say a couple of birthday candles in there makes it go way longer.
A crayon, too. You can just light a crayon by the tip, and they last about 30 minutes. Yeah. Any case, we're coming up onto an hour. So I guess final thing is, the original idea of buying this kit, I was going to put it in the ATV along with the life straw. Now I start wondering, what do you folks think out there? Should we give this thing away and I'll buy another one and test it out? Or I don't know. What's your guys' thoughts? Let's get some input from everybody that's listening. Reach out to us. Let us know if this is something you'd like to see given away. I'm not terribly impartial to it. You know what I mean? I don't mind slapping this as a giveaway or something like that. If not, it'll end up in the ATV, and maybe sometime over the summer I will take this sucker out and we'll really see what it can do in the woods. I'll just hit the trails here behind the house, and I'll take nothing but the life straw, the survival kit, and maybe some sort of container. And I'll see if I can spend the night. That's another option. What do you folks want? I'll leave you with that thought.
I think this is my proposal. I think me and you should go on, create our own kit, and propose it.
Maybe do a podcast about a $100 kit? If that's something you guys want to see, like you guys let us know what you want.
Set a budget. I'll go on Amazon. I'll create a kit. You go on Amazon. You create a kit and see how many items are the same.
Absolutely. That's another thing we could do. So sky's the limit. If you guys want to hear more about these pre-kits, we don't mind talking about them. We just didn't know there was a need for people to want to hear this stuff, to be perfectly honest, because I thought these survival kits, I thought it was pretty... I don't want to say common knowledge. I thought it was pretty understood what they were.
To me, I'll tell you who I think buys the majority of these. You have a close friend, a relative, somebody who knows you're into this stuff, and they buy it for you, thinking, hey, it's a plethora of stuff for you to play with. You'll have fun. You'll enjoy it. It's worth the $25 to them. Or the other people are people who are relatively new in this and have none of the gear, and they're like, oh, this is a good starting point. The reality is, and this is what I'm going to say, if you get into this, you will replace almost every piece of that gear probably within a couple of months. So it kind of falls into, and I am cheap, it kind of falls into better off, buy once, cry once, than buy it multiple times. You could start off with one of those, but I would probably start upgrading every piece of it pretty quickly.
So, couple comments from here already. Let's build our kit, our $100 kit, and put it against this kit.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm not against that. And I think the follow-up to that was take it out in the woods and see which one works better. I'm not against that either. Give us a little time on that. We'll pick the pieces out. Maybe we'll talk about that between us. We'll buy this kit. Or I'll make this kit here. I'll try it, and then maybe we give them both away. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
We've talked about the, I think it was the $20 dollar store challenge, and we said here in Canada it might be a bit of a stretch because nothing's $1. But we had talked about pushing it to $50 or even $100 and see and expand it to store, but that was for like an overnight trip. These are all ideas. And if you can shop around, you can definitely get some good stuff. You could do an Amazon one, but I think $100 kit, probably mostly from Amazon, or try that. Princess Auto would be an interesting.
I was going to say, I might actually hit Princess Auto for some of this stuff, because then I can feel it. You know what I mean? Because for the price I paid on these flashlights, I can guarantee you one of those is making it into the kit.
I have found some neat stuff in Princess Auto. The thing is, it's hit or miss. A lot of the stuff ends up in their surplus section. So if it's there this week, it may not be there next week.
And that's just it. That's what was with the flashlights. But anyway, folks, we got some ideas. Definitely let us know in the comments and stuff like that which ones you guys want. We already read the comments over live. Anybody that's listening, jump back, post on the podcast, give us some ideas, and we'll see where we can run with this. If this is something you folks want to hear more about, we're game. That's what we do. All right, folks. Have yourselves a good night. Sorry we kept you here for an hour. Hopefully you found it interesting.
Night all.
Night.